So it's no secret that this newer generation is a little bit cooked. And I know every generation says that, but this one is really bad because some of these fools can't even read. And this guy here apparently has the answer. So I want to hear what he has to say. We're going to react to it.
I'm a former teacher and now parent, and parents and administrators in schools are destroying the fabric of society. And the thing is, they just don't realize it. I think I've discovered what the root cause of the problem is. And let's start with not the teachers. So first, you do know that teachers are quitting in astronomical numbers.
That's completely true. Outside the fact that they're not getting paid enough, they're cutting funding. Teachers have to pay for their own school supplies, which is crazy to me. Like, why do I have to provide the school supplies? If the parents aren't providing and the schools aren't providing it, you're expecting me to take money out of this check that you barely pay me so I can take care of these goddamn monsters? Yeah, there's that. And on top of the fact that these kids are monsters. They're one, a lot of them are illiterate. They're rude because they've never been taught proper manners, and by teaching proper manners, I mean sometimes you got to put a belt to. You know what I mean? You got to give them that Joe Jackson treatment sometimes because these kids are just not learning. And when you put that all together, and then you throw these teachers into these schools, and these kids are just absolutely horrible. What do you expect them to do other than quit? They're lucky that people are sticking around as long as they have. I think there's going to come a point where kids are just going to have to be taught online because teachers are not going to want to deal with your stupid kids in person.
And you also have heard that the American educational system, we are actually getting dumber. Students are doing worse than they did in the past. I'm sure that there's so many people out there saying, why? I don't get it. If you're not a teacher and you're not in a school, you don't realize, like, I don't understand why this is happening. And at its core, at the bottom, it's one thing. It's avoiding hard things. I think at this
Yes. Yes. Between gentle parenting and creating safe spaces everywhere, these kids can't do difficult things. They can't take criticism. They can't take bullying. I know you might be thinking to yourself, why should kids be able to take bullying? Look, bro, there was a point in time when the bullying, when it was contained to the schools and didn't follow you home on the internet, it taught a lot of character. Kids learned conflict resolution, but now you don't have too much conflict resolution. You don't have kids doing difficult tasks. If it's too hard, then they just make it easier for you. They're lowering the educational standards everywhere. They're getting rid of standardized testing, which is really the only way to know if somebody actually retained the knowledge. They're not holding kids behind because they don't want to embarrass them. And then, at some of these schools, you can't even give kids zeros. Like if a kid doesn't turn in an assignment, teachers are not allowed to hand out zeros. You gotta give them a 40 or a 50% because it's too difficult for them to recover their grade. Look, bro, if you don't go to work, you get $0 for that day. That's how life works, but they're not teaching kids life the right way anymore. They're trying to make it as easy as possible for them. And the parents that put boot to ass with when it comes to their kids are the ones who are going to have successful children.
point, people have realized that gentle parenting doesn't work. What is gentle parenting? Gentle parenting is more permissive parenting, but what it truly is letting kids do anything and everything with no consequences and letting life be and making life be as easy as possible for them with little to no resistance. And the thing was, in the past, when parents used to do this, these couple kids that would show up at school, the school would slam the door on that attitude because they'd be like, there are consequences, you can be held back, all these things that would then kick the kid into action to be like, oh, I can't keep behaving like this because if not, then I can't exist in this school. I'm going to keep getting held back. I'm going to keep getting in trouble, et cetera, et cetera. But unfortunately, it's these gentle parents or the permissive parents who are also super entitled and started to come at administrators at schools and say, like, how dare you do stuff to my kid to have consequences? They would never blah, 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 blah.
And I think this is actually a chain reaction, or this is um, a reaction to us growing up. When we were growing up, our parents never believed us. Let's be real. Some of our parents took things a little too far, if you know what I mean. If a teacher told them something, they'd believe the teacher outright. And sometimes the teacher would lie. A lot of times they wouldn't, but sometimes you did have teachers that just didn't like students for whatever reason, and parents would believe them. Nowadays, the people who are now parents who knew what it felt like to not be believed by your parents, they're gonna take the side of their kids because they know what it feels like to have your parents not believe you when you really are telling the truth. And what it's led to is a pendulum swinging so far in one direction that parents refuse to hold their kids accountable. And now they're holding the administrators accountable for their kids sucking. And the thing is, the administrators should have never bent the knee to these parents. They should have never allowed these parents to convince them that they should make life easier for their children and that they shouldn't give their children any consequences. What I think should happen is we need to start holding parents accountable. I think that parents should be fined if they have kids who are not showing up to school. There used to be like truancy laws to where your parents could be fined. If your child is a menace to society, I mean, he's walking around graffiti, pants hanging below his booty cheeks, doing whatever the hell he wants, hold the parents accountable one way or another. I don't know how you would enforce it. Maybe enforce it under vehicle registration or figure out some kind of way to do it. And one way you could do it in the inner cities is say if your kids don't go to school, we're going to start taking away your public government assistance. Food stamps gone. Your kids don't want to go to school. We don't want to have another mouth to feed eventually in the future. So because your kids not getting it together, we're going to cut out all forms of assistance. I guarantee you they're going to start putting boot to ass to make sure that these kids go to school and they get decent grades.
And threaten lawsuits. Then, in addition to that, schools are only getting money when they have less suspensions and less expulsions, and that they're not holding kids back. So then the schools are incentivized to push kids through. No.
I didn't realize that a lot of school funding had to do with not expelling or suspending children, but it makes sense honestly because they get paid per butt in seat. For every student in the classroom that day, the school gets some money. So I understand why not suspending kids will be best for them because they keep butts in seats and they get more money. Where this has a very, very, very bad consequences is the simple fact that these kids are not understanding consequences. In real life, when you do stupid things, there are consequences. And if they don't want to learn it in school, they're going to learn it out in the real world. But once they get onto the real world, now they become menaces to the rest of us. Now I have to deal with your stupid kid who might be a stupid employee or may just be a stupid person on the street that makes my life harder. Maybe they don't have a high school diploma. Now they can't work. Now they're robbing people. Now I got to beat the hell out of your kid. And then 15 of them jump out of a Toyota Prius wearing ski masks and they shoot me. But you get the point I'm trying to make here. If we don't start holding them accountable when they're children, then as they get older, it's only going to get worse.
Child left behind was awful because we need to leave kids behind. What I've learned in my growth as a human being is that you have to go through hard things in order for life to improve and get better. There's no easy way to just jump to a successful life without going through hard things. People who go through life without hard things will eventually meet resistance, and then comes depression.
There's a book out there called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's one of those self help books that just teaches you that you have to do the hard things to become successful. Jocko Willink has a book that says discipline equals freedom. Um, David Goggins has the Can't Hurt Me, where it just talks about how you have to do these challenging things to achieve the things that you want to achieve in this life. Now, some of those guys take it a little too far because you don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. every day. But it's not necessarily about waking up early because eventually that becomes easy. It's the initial process of deciding that I'm going to start my day at this time and I'm going to go to bed at this time every day, providing structure. These kids don't have that structure. The obstacle is the way. They have to go through hardships. That's why I think sports are so important. To young children, sports are their first job. It's their first real exposure to the workplace. School doesn't really do it the same because sports is a job. You have a manager, which is your coach. You have your coworkers, which is your teammates. You have payment, which is playing time. And you have requirements, which is practice. You have assignments on the field or the court. You have to memorize things. You have to remember plays. You have to not just know your job, you have to know the job of the people around you because you have to understand how you guys work in synchrony. So sports is very important in developing children's skills when it comes to the workplace. That's why there are a lot of jobs, specifically like the military and police and fire, that like athletes because one, they know how to follow orders, and two, they grew up with a sense of structure that didn't come from the home and that didn't come from teachers. Teachers are babysitters, whereas coaches they have a very specific purpose. They're trying to win. That's like getting profit in a business. So coaches are going to give your children the ass whooping that they deserve when they screw up.
because they don't understand why life isn't just easy for them like it has been forever. Mental health epidemic. So now, right now, we have this combination of things that are happening right now where we have AI coming in and making things as easy as possible academically for children. Then we have the school system saying, oh, you don't do anything and we'll still give you a 50. So you barely have to do anything and you're still going to get passed and still move on. And then you have the systems themselves that are based on the metrics, like getting the grades. And why do you have to get the grades? Because the better grades get you a better school. A better school gets you to this, gets you to more money, etc. But all that is gone with AI.
So the thing about AI, it takes away a lot of um the skills that you need to really be successful. With when I was coming up, doing a research paper, and mind you, I was in high school writing 3-page papers, and my freshman year of college, I had to do a 12-page research paper on the Tuskegee experiment. So there was no AI. There was Google, but there were certain places that I just couldn't cite. Like I had to read scholarly articles, which were bone dry, hard reads, but we had to read the scholarly articles. We had to go to the library and look at books. We had to cite sources, which is a an educational purpose in and of itself. Writing the paper is not the learning aspect of it. And even just reading and getting the information isn't what you really learn. What you learn when it comes to writing papers is problem solving skills, how to investigate, figuring out good sources, how to credit people when they need the credit. But these kids aren't getting that with artificial intelligence. It's like a microwave. You just put the time in and it gives you out food. Whereas we were taught how to be chefs. We were taught how to put together ingredients, do this, do that. And these kids aren't learning those skills. They're learning like microwave skills instead of learning how to cook. And we knew how to cook. And that's the problem right now. And I'm gonna let them cook. But artificial intelligence is dumbing people down extremely. If you are articulate, you are literate, and you know how to use artificial intelligence, you can take over the world.
So right now, not everywhere, but a lot of places, the kids are running the schools. They barely do anything. They are tech addicted and they struggle with staying in the present moment and focusing, and struggle with emotional intelligence and emotional regulation. They struggle with reading and writing because they always find the easy way to get it done and they still get passed along for doing it. They behave any way that they want, so disrespect to everyone and everything because there are no consequences and there's no personal responsibility. And then on social media, they're seeing that it doesn't matter, the world is going to end because of AI or because of climate change or because of whatever. So their life, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's no point in growing. There's no point because we're not even going to exist. Why would I want to have kids? There's going to be no world in 10 years.
I honestly have a very controversial take, or it may not be controversial depending on how you look at it. I feel like children shouldn't be exposed to technology until they get to high school. I don't feel like they should own a smartphone until they get to college. I feel like from birth or kindergarten, whenever they start school, until about the 8th grade, the only piece of technology that they should be able to use is a dumb phone, or if they're going to use a computer, real bare bones. They're not allowed to get on social media websites because when I was coming up, you had to get on the computer to get on MySpace and Facebook. They're going to have none of that. And then once they get to high school, maybe a smartphone, but very limited because they don't need it. They're not smart. They need dumb phones because they're dumb. And they need to learn the hard skills. They need to learn how to research. You ever heard of the Dewey Decimal System? I bet I brought back some memories that you guys forgot that you had. But there are a lot, and I mean a lot of things that kids need to learn how to do. And the internet takes away their ability to learn because it just gives them everything that they need.
That's the attitude and mentality of so many kids in our generation right now. And here's the part of why I had to leave teaching. Because I saw like that mentality, that I don't give a crap mentality, was being spread. So like some people say, like back in the day, there were 2 or 3 kids in every class that the teachers had to deal with. Well, now imagine that number of kids that don't care, that act out, the whatever, has now increased to the point where it's getting closer and closer to the majority. At least at the school I was, it became the majority. The majority of the kids didn't give a crap about anyone or anything except themselves. And because no one in their life, no school, no parent, no anything has had any consequences, any boundaries, it has allowed them to get away with this. So what am I saying that we need right now? We need to go back to recognizing that hard things are necessary.
I 1000% agree. Not only are hard things necessary and kids need to do hard things, we need to take them back to the Stone Ages. We need to remove a lot of the technology, make them read books. Their cognitive function is going down. They're rude. They have no consequences. And I think that they're going to be a more of a detriment to the future than anybody else. They're going to be mindless, like walking zombies. The Walking Dead is here. The zombie apocalypse is here right now. You see the zombies walking around you every single day. So what we need to do is bring back consequences. I agree with 1000% with everything that he said. His name is on the screen right there. It popped up a few times. His social media handle is better with B. Yeah, better with B at TikTok. So go ahead, look him up, and God bless you guys, and God bless anybody who has children.